this video is going to be helpful for you if you are determined to live your human design, like live in alignment with your human design, and you know that you need to do some deconditioning in order to do that. Now, you might not know heaps about human design. You might not know heaps about deconditioning. Maybe you know a little bit about tapping, but you are keen to understand how all those pieces go together. So it doesn't matter if you found human design like yesterday, or you have been working with it for 30 years and you're one of Ra's original students, or anywhere in between. As long as you are aware that you have some layers of stuff on top of your your design, your energetic design, and you know that that is the stuff that is getting in the way of living true to your design, then this video is going to be for you. Now, I want to have a quick look through the notes here and make sure that we tick off all these things. So I was asked this question. It was a fabulous question in a comment below one of these videos. And what is brilliant about when you guys ask me questions is you ask me things that it didn't even occur to me that I needed to explain. And this is one of the challenges of being in the human design space for more than a decade, in the tapping space for more than a decade. So much of it is integrated into my life and my understanding that it's easy for me to forget what it's like to be a beginner. So I'm going to read you what this person said. They asked, I understand tapping to release, but how does it decondition? So to answer this question, I want to make sure that there's three terms that you understand. First, tapping, release, and what it means to decondition, or like deconditioning as a term. And then once we're clear on those three definitions, then I'll talk about how. Okay, so tapping is this thing. The most common version of tapping that is known is EFT, emotional freedom techniques. There are lots of different versions of tapping. So when I talk about tapping, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using this process to tune into the body. I do a version that I have developed called trauma-informed tapping. You can learn more about that on my website, and I will talk a little bit more about that in the process of this video. But what we're doing is I'm teaching you a way to go safely and effectively and deeply into the body in order to release, we'll get to that one, the emotional stuff that's stuck. So tapping is the tool that you can use to be able to tune into the body and work with what's stuck inside of there so that then you can release it. Now, what does release mean? The very surface level understanding of this is something is stuck. We're going to unstick it and let it come out, release it like a bird that's been trapped. What happens in reality is actually there is an emotional or an energetic or an electrical charge, depending on who you talk to. They could explain it any number of ways, any of those three ways, and they would all be true. Pointing to the same thing, which is something is stuck in the system. And as we release it, it will come up and out. Often there will be, emotions, sounds, movements, facial expressions, things that you haven't been able to do in the process of releasing the thing. And as it comes up and out, it doesn't escape into the ether. What it does is it gets recycled back into the system, and that unit or several units of energy or electrical charge gets to be used in a healthier, better way for your system. It can be used on things like having enough energy to try something new, to experiment with a new aspect of your human design. So that's release. Now, what it means to deconditioning is the act of recognizing where you have been conditioned, and I'll talk about conditioning in a second, and recognizing where that conditioning is not supporting you, and then releasing it. See how there's like lots of layers that we come back to again and again here? So conditioning primarily happens in childhood. There's stuff that, can happen in gestation, and some people believe from previous lifetimes or other lifetimes. There's certainly ancestral patterning that happens and that gets carried through our DNA. And there is conditioning that can happen on a day-to-day basis. But the most chunky stuff that makes the most difference and keeps us the most stuck is the stuff that happens up till about the age of 7. And conditioning in that respect takes two main forms. One is the imprint of the beliefs and the subtle layers of stuff that can happen and that we can pick up as beliefs. So two examples that come to mind. Actually, I'd written them down here as useful examples. So, good girls do what they're told. right? That's a belief. Good girls do what they're told. Or you could say good boys, right? Or good children. Another one is money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, so these are examples of like imprints, and they might be really subtle. You might not realize there's an emotional charge in them. Okay, so that's one version of conditioning. Another is the traumatic experiences we've been through. So a traumatic experience is anywhere we didn't feel safe. So it might be something small, seemingly small through our adult eyes, like kids in the classroom laughing at you when you make a mistake, right? So you feel really humiliated, therefore you don't feel safe in that group environment. Or it could be that you have an older sibling or a stronger sibling that you can't keep up with, right? Or roughhouses you a bit too much. It might not seem like a big deal if you're 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, but if it felt like a really big deal. So if you can still remember it, it still has a charge. Okay. The other thing, so there's some smaller examples, but it could be a big example, like maybe you had a major car accident, or maybe you experienced some kind of abuse. Anywhere where we didn't feel safe and we didn't have the opportunity and the skills and the knowledge for how to fully recover from that experience, how to fully integrate and complete that experience, it's all still stuck in our body. It's stuck in our field, it's stuck in our nervous system, and it keeps us conditioned. As we went through those experiences, we created, there'll be a part of us that split off that went, oh my gosh, I don't want that to happen again. We will have formed a part that says, this is how I'm going to keep you safe moving forward. And that is so often going to get in the way of us living true to our design. So let's come back to this question. Now that we've talked about those three things of what is tapping, what is releasing, like what does it mean to release, and deconditioning. So when we are tapping, it's so easy for us to think about, okay, maybe this person upset me at work today or whatever, and to think about releasing that emotional charge. When we use tapping to work on, let's look at the traumatic experiences. And you need to have a high enough skill level to do this on your own. That's why a lot of people will default to tapping sessions with a practitioner. But as long as you know how to skillfully and safely go in and be with the parts of you that experienced that bad thing, then you can slowly, gently remove those layers of pain, fear, anger, anguish, whatever the thing was. And what happens is, as you do that, you automatically come into greater alignment with your design. Because basically all the things that are keeping you stuck are the distortions and the fear. And when you can clean those up, you automatically come back into alignment with your design. So let's look at the beliefs, because the beliefs and those subtle imprints can be harder. If you were to hear, let's say you heard, good people work hard, right? As a tiny child, your soul knew that that wasn't the whole truth of the whole world. It wasn't actually aligned with radical universal truth. And the distortion would have landed badly in your body, right? So what would have happened for tiny you, and you won't necessarily remember this, but when you get really skilled at tapping, you can tap in and find that charge. What you find is like, it feels a bit gross, or it feels a bit tight, or it feels a bit uncomfortable. And that is your cue, your signal that there is a charge stuck in there that is like waiting to be released. So when you can find any of these beliefs that don't feel like 100% radical truth, which is like everything is love, that's the only real truth. When you can find those, then you can like gently pull those layers off. And again, can you see how if you are especially a projector or a reflector, but also if you are another human design type with a lot of openness, then some of these beliefs can be really, really damaging. You could be the hardest working, strongest manifesting generated design. And if you have shitty beliefs around money, you will work yourself into the ground and never make enough money, because you might hold this belief that has this subtle charge that says it's not safe, okay, possible, okay for me to make a lot of money doing work that lights me up. Okay, so we've talked about all of that: tapping, deconditioning, releasing. What I want you to know is that it is possible for you to do this work one-on-one with a practitioner. The tapping industry wants to convince you, and I've spent 10 years in this space, wants to convince you that you should just come and do tapping sessions and tap along with a practitioner, and that you should do 5 sessions or 10 sessions or like tapping over a long period of time. And I can tell you that is one, a very expensive way to do it, and two, doesn't fully empower you to know how to use this tool in your own life. I have made incredible progress deconditioning and coming into greater alignment with my design by learning how to do the tool really effectively on my own, so that then I can tap wherever and whenever stuff shows up. And so that's why I now teach my trauma-informed tapping modality to students in a group class. You can come and learn it one-on-one if the date for the group class next date doesn't work for you. But if you want to come and learn it at the cheapest price with a group of other people, then make sure you jump on the email list. The link is in the video description. And then next time that I've got there's a class running later this month, and I will email all those details out to those who are on the list. And thank you to those people who are loving this content and asking brave questions below these videos. I'm very happy if you have a question that relates at all to like understanding your human design, or understanding how to use tapping, or how to decondition so you can come into alignment with your beautiful design. If you have a question that is of a broad nature, that when you ask yourself, is it possible that like 1 or 100 or 1,000 other people might have this same question, then pop it in a comment. If I haven't already answered that question in another video on the channel, then I'm happy to add it to my list, like I did with this person's question. If you have a personal question where you're like, okay, I want to ask a specific thing about my chart, or I need to tell Carolyn about this specific traumatic experience and like work through it and learn how to do tapping so then I can like work very specifically on my chart, we can do that in paid coaching sessions. Below many of these videos in the video description, there's a direct link to book in for coaching. But if there's not, you can always find options for my coaching at carolynsouthwell.com.